Welcome, everybody, to It's Called Soccer Summer Series. Now, you're probably wondering, especially the UK listeners, where is Rebecca Lowe? And who is this American voice? And God, I hate that accent. Well, I'm sorry. For the next 7 weeks, you're going to listen to this accent. It's Taylor Twellman. I'm lead analyst for MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Now, the IQ of this show will go down exponentially, because I don't have an ability to use a word with more than 7 letters. And so it's kind of like your Kate Winslet has been replaced by Stifler. And for UK listeners, by the way, Stifler, greatest actor ever in the best movie ever, American Pie. But it's more apropos of us here for It's Called Soccer Summer Series that Gary Neville's on vacation, sitting in his Speedo with his pina colada in his hand, that we replace him with another professional footballer who lied about how tall he is, who played over 400 games professionally for both club and country, but more important, like Gary, often wrong, seldom in doubt, the one and only Dax McCarty. Dax, my man, welcome in. How you doing, bud?
Doing great, man. Wow, what an intro. And may I say, I have no doubts that I would look better in a Speedo than Gary Neville. Okay,
I would agree with that, absolutely. What color would your Speedo be?
The best color, red, of course, like my hair. Yeah, man, that is quite the intro. I can't follow that up. The only thing I can say is that it's going to be a pleasure to do this with you for the summer. We're going to be covering MLS. We're going to be covering Club World Cup, U.S. men's national team. And we're going to react to some of the biggest stories breaking around the world of soccer. It's going to be a fun summer, man.
Spot on, Dax. It's going to be a great time. You and I are going to be busy with MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, plus watching games. So remember, you can subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. Here's what we got coming up. I have zero problem with what Landon Donovan said. However, I don't think he can be the voice for that.
This is the biggest story in U.S. men's national team circles right now.
I know this sounds idiotic. I don't think Ronaldo would have helped him.
The fact that they even explored it, I think that shows ambition from LAFC's perspective.
I think Christian Pulisic has a hip injury and he doesn't want people to know about it.
You know as well as I do, winning cures everything.
Dax, I don't beat around a bush, so let's get right after it. All right, so the international break is always time for stories and critique about where the current national teams stand, and especially when it's a year before the World Cup. And so we're going to get right into this struggle that is of the U.S. men's national team. And it's been a real struggle, quite honestly, since the World Cup in 2022. Now, Pochettino became the first manager since Jurgen Klinsmann in 2015 to lose 3 straight games. They lost 2-1 to Turkey in Hartford, Connecticut. But that's not actually what I want to talk about. The biggest talking point was the comment Landon Donovan made indirectly, for lack of a better way to put it, at the players, namely Christian Pulisic, who have taken a break from the national team this summer. And he did it during Portugal celebrating the UEFA Nations League. This was Landon Donovan's quote. "This is what it means to represent your country. As an international soccer player, if you don't want to take it seriously or responsibly, then don't come in." He's referring to Ronaldo, is 40 years old. He's played a long-ass season. He was out there grinding, got hurt in the process. And I can't help but think about the guys on vacation not wanting to play in the Gold Cup. It's pissing me off. End quote. Now, Dax, this in turn leads to Christian Pulisic's dad clapping back. And by the way, he clapped back using Chat GPT. That's a different topic, but anyways, here I go with this. His quote, our post was, "This guy's talking about commitment. Look in the mirror. Grow a pair and call names out. Or are you afraid next time you want an interview, you will be rejected again?" Mark is referring to the sabbatical that Landon Donovan took during World Cup qualifying in 2013, which led ultimately him being left off the World Cup roster by Klinsmann, which over the past year, Jurgen Klinsmann actually confirmed. Dax, that's where I want to start with you. Just overarching theme, what the hell's going on in your mind?
Taylor, this is disturbing. I feel like it's a soap opera. You know, I feel like I'm watching an episode of the hills of reality TV kind of like unfold in real time, right in front of our faces. But seriously, let me just say right off the bat that I think it's such a sad state of affairs that the main talking points a year out from a World Cup all revolve around off-field drama and off-field nonsense and a bunch of stuff that, quite frankly, is unnecessary, but at the end of the day, we have to talk about because of the state of the national team. And you know as well as I do that winning cures everything. If Maurizio Pochettino had come in after the Copa America failure and hit the ground running, and we had been fantastic in Nations League, we hadn't crashed out against Panama, we'd won all of our friendlies, the A team, quote unquote, our best players in Europe were all in really good form and playing well for the national team, then you know what? I don't think any of this would be an issue. I don't think any of this would be a talking point. But because I think the way it has been communicated, which has been, I think, for me, the biggest disappointment. This is now the biggest story in U.S. men's national team circles right now. We aren't even focusing on the friendlies. We're not even focusing really on the Gold Cup. We will, I guess, secondhand. I have such a problem with the way that this has all occurred and this has all been communicated. And Christian Pulisic is a wonderful player. Okay, I'm gonna say this from a place of humility, TT, and self-awareness, because I played for the national team 14 times. I was not the face of the program. I was not an elite player in Europe. I didn't even sniff Europe. So I can't sit here and speak from an experience of what Christian Pulisic has done in his career and what he is going through. But I can speak as an American international who represented their national team. And because of the differences in levels between Christian and I...
How many years were you a captain?
I was captain more than half my career, TT. So it's a good point. I don't understand fundamentally what it feels like to have the luxury to decline a call-up. To say, you know what? When my national team comes calling, I'm just going to say, okay, I don't think I need to go in. I think I would rather get some rest. And so here's where I'll try to button it up, because there's, TT, you know as well as I do, there's so much nuance and context that goes into a discussion like this. But here's where I stand on this. Christian Pulisic had a long season. So did a ton of other players that play international football. Christian Pulisic has been fragile in the past. I understand that. But he just played 50 games this year. Amazing. He comes out, and it's not even Christian that comes out and has a statement about what's happening this summer. It's U.S. Soccer having to put out a statement on behalf of not even him, but his team. What are we talking about here? His team has communicated to U.S. Soccer that he doesn't want to come in. Okay, fair enough. And it's because, okay, maybe you're dealing with some minor injuries. Okay, TT, you know what it's like to be hurt. You know what it's like to be injured. There's a difference. You never played your entire career at 100%, and neither did many of us. Many of us played hurt a bunch, and so I understand that. But Christian, you made that announcement. Then you played 90 minutes in the last game of the season for AC Milan in a meaningless game. And then crickets. We don't hear anything from you. Anthony Robinson gets surgery. Okay, I understand that. No, that's fair. But we haven't heard anything from Christian Pulisic. He should be communicating how he's feeling. And by the way, Landon Donovan is getting criticized, I think, for coming out and saying it and being called a little bit hypocritical, which maybe that's fair game, maybe it's not. Because TT, you know as well as I do, Landon, his was mental health related. His was not because of how he felt physically. And so, look, I don't have any issues with Christian Pulisic wanting to get some rest, but where I think we need to reassess our mentality on this a little bit is that we're a year out from the biggest World Cup in history. Mm-hmm. Is there not a world, TT, let me throw it back to you. Is there not a world in which Christian Pulisic could have come in as a leader of this team and been a part of the squad, played a couple of minutes here and there, managed his minutes with Pochettino, been around the group, and then still been able to go on vacation, maybe after the Gold Cup, and have 3 or 4 weeks of a break before the season started? I feel like there was a better way to handle this entire situation.
I think that's what Pochettino would have hoped for. That's why U.S. Soccer made a statement that they did. So the public knows that it's not their decision. It is 100% Christian Pulisic's decision.
Exactly.
I think Pulisic's dealing with an injury. He just doesn't want to talk about it. I think there is real concern, and the rumor has been in Italy for the last 2 months that there's something going on with his hip. That should have been stated immediately when he makes that decision.
It's communication. Just communicate that.
Yeah, 100%. But I started the conversation about Landon Donovan. I was there, and I lived every single second of it for ESPN covering it. It was World Cup qualifying. It was in the middle of World Cup qualifying that he took a sabbatical just over 1 year before the World Cup. Yep. And that ultimately is the reason why Jurgen Klinsmann said no. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people are like, well, hold on a minute, it was mental health. I'm not diminishing mental health.
Yep.
But you want to know what it was like in there? Clint Dempsey had a quote recently explaining it, who was in that locker room every single time. And his quote was brilliant. You have the opportunity to plant the crops, harvest the crops. You're showing up when it's time to eat. Where were you when we were all grinding? End quote. And that's my point here, that I have zero problem with what Landon Donovan said. I actually agree with a lot of what he said. However, I don't think he can be the voice for that.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that he doesn't have the right. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest American players ever. That's totally fine. But you're talking about a, quote, sabbatical that you took. Tim Howard took a sabbatical that put him behind Brad Guzan. Alexi Lalas, who was on the desk with Landon Donovan during this UEFA Nations League game, he took a sabbatical. And Dax, everyone forgets, he never played for the national team again.
Wow.
Now, the bigger concern is this, and I don't have an answer, but I'm going to raise it because I think we really have to have the conversation. Why are American athletes the only ones that talk about load management, sabbaticals, and I need a break? They're the only ones. Because Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, and anyone that tries to bring up Courtois, by the way, research why Courtois had to leave the Belgian national team. It had zero to do with it. Lewandowski's not playing for Poland right now. Why? He hates the coach. I'm talking about my body needs a break.
100%.
I don't know that answer, Dax. And what's got me concerned is it is not an American soccer thing. It is an American athlete thing. The NBA's got a massive load management issue right now. Baseball's got a massive load management issue right now. But we're the only country that talks about it. Now, Rodri and other players from Man City that are playing 75 to 80 games, I get all of that because of what UEFA is doing and how the Champions League now means more games. But they don't take a sabbatical. My issue of bringing it up during the Nations League final is this. The Nations League was 10 days.
Yeah.
Portugal's not coming together. France is not coming together. Spain's not coming together for 6 weeks, Dax.
Yeah.
You and I have both done a Gold Cup.
Yep.
I've done multiple. It's your entire summer. It's 6 weeks. You got 2 friendlies, and then more than likely you're going to get to the semifinal, which takes you into the final weekend. So there you have it. It's a 4-week tournament. There's nuance to this argument, but you got Weston McKennie coming out. You got Clint Dempsey coming out. You've got Eddie Johnson now coming out. It's just, Dax, where I struggle to resonate with anything, and this is coming from someone, so for the listeners in UK, my career ended at 28.
Yeah,
I had about 5 years left, but the concussion took away a lot. The moment the game leaves you and the moment you walk away, Dax, my greatest compliment to you as a player is that you exhausted your career. You have no regrets. Exactly. I'm sitting here wondering, wait a minute, I probably would have gone to the 2010 World Cup or at least given Bob Bradley something to think about.
Yep.
I'm sitting there wondering, guys, when it's all over, and it's all done, you're going to be really arguing about, I'm kind of tired, but that's where I think people don't fully understand. I think Christian Pulisic has a hip injury and he doesn't want people to know about it.
Yeah, but I don't understand why that is. Let me just put it this way, TT, because this is kind of generally my feeling about the national team. over the last, let's call it 2 years, maybe since the 2022 World Cup, okay? And the quote-unquote success.
Which is, by the way, Dax,
by
the way, all we've been talking about are parents. By the way, another one, Mark Pulisic, we're really doing this. Giovanni Reyna's parents. Like, this is what we're talking about.
It's crazy.
Dude, we're not talking about any progression of the game, but carry on.
And this is kind of my overriding and overarching feeling about this national team in particular, this group of players in particular. The quote-unquote most talented generation we've ever had. The quote-unquote players who were going to take U.S. soccer to the next level and really change the way that the world viewed American soccer. You've done that in Europe. No one can touch the careers that some of ththese guys are having right now. No one can touch a Christian Pulisic career, only at the club team level. Even a Weston McKennie, a Tim Weah, Gio Reyna maybe is in a tier a little bit below that. He's not there yet. But here's what I want to posit to you, TT, and feel free to vehemently disagree with me if you think that I'm off base here. I think that if Christian Pulisic was German, I think that if Weston McKennie was French, I think that if Tim Weah was Spanish, I don't think that you would see them not going into every single camp that they were fit and available for. Do you know why? Because the depth on our national team is not good enough. And it has to be said, the talent in our national team is not good enough right now to compete at the highest level. And that, in turn, lets these players who have these great careers in Europe, they get complacent and they think, you know what? I have the luxury to miss a camp and to miss a Gold Cup because at the end of the day, there's no one that's going to step up and take my spot because I am better than everyone else in my position and I play at a bigger club than they do. So where I'm at is that, you know what? Yeah, I love the national team when it's convenient for me, but not every single time there's a camp. And if Christian Pulisic is injured, then that's fine. Take your rest. Take your break. I would rather him be fully fit going into the next season and then be prepared for the World Cup. But you need to say that because now all you have us doing is speculating about if you want to be there or not. And I think he does. I think he cares. And I think he wants to be there. I think people should not question whether these players want to be there or not. I really genuinely think they care. But they haven't played at the level with the national team that they've hit with their club teams. And that is, I think, inarguable.
I need to raise my hand. I'm a huge culprit to calling this the golden generation of player because when the United States failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2017, I asked the question, what are we doing? And I asked that question because...
Very famously.
And the fact that I didn't say the F word is probably my greatest accomplishment in life. But I asked the question because where is the progression? When the United States lost to Belgium in the round of 16 2014 World Cup, and Tim Howard had to make 7,000 saves, but if Chris Wondolowski or Clint Dempsey score, they actually get to the quarterfinal and play Argentina on July 4th. Why am I bringing that up? I asked that question, how do you compete against Belgium, Argentina, Brazil, and Italy's of the world? And then when they failed to qualify for the World Cup, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Now, I thought Pulisic, McKennie, Reyna, Tyler Adams, all of these young American players playing at the clubs that we as Americans have never been, that was a huge step into changing the perspective of the American player. But here's the difference. Every one of the countries that we as a country are chasing, they have 4 Pulisics at left wing. They have 4 Weston McKennies. They have 4 Timothy Weahs. But we can't fix that overnight, Dax.
Nope.
The problem is my dumbass calling them the golden generation of players consistently put them on a pedestal where they haven't had a signature win. And that is the difference. Every one of us that have played for the national team have a signature win within our generation. We all do. We can pinpoint it. We can show you highlights. This one, what is it?
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. So the biggest World Cup in U.S. men's national team history and the federation, and they don't have World Cup qualifying, and they bomb out of Copa America, and they don't want to play in the Gold Cup, and they lose in Nations League at home for the first time to Canada in, what was it, 70 years?
The vibes are bad.
Dax, it is without a doubt spiraling to real pressure. And here we are on June 10th, 2025, going into a Gold Cup, which, by the way, we've pontificated so long that we're not even going to talk about the Gold Cup expectations, which, Dax, you and I would agree, they have to win it. And if they don't, it's a disappointment.
100%.
But this is what it is. And we will not know what this group looks like and what they feel like until the opening game of the World Cup. That could be a disaster.
Yeah, it could be. But here's the other point. If it's not a disaster, and if by some miracle this team completely proves us all wrong and these players all step up,
they will,
and they get their signature win and they make a deep run to the quarters or the semis, we're going to forget about this summer and we're going to laugh about it.
As long as your parents aren't going on Instagram about this podcast and telling me to shut up, we'll be good. It's Called Soccer is brought to you by our partner, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The European soccer season might have finished, but that doesn't mean your soccer watching has. With MLS, the new Club World Cup, and the Gold Cup, there's plenty of soccer to get excited for this summer. And with FanDuel, you can make every moment more all summer long, like betting which team will lift the cup, who will score, and plenty of special markets too. There are an endless number of markets available, and FanDuel gives you the chance for a greater payout when you combine your picks to create a same-game parlay. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $200 in bonus bets. Already a customer? FanDuel is giving out Profit Boost tokens during all Club World Cup and Gold Cup matches. Visit FanDuel.com/ICS or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and get in on the action. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And if you win, the payouts are instant. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. So I was looking forward to this podcast, not because I wanted to talk with Dax for about 7 weeks. Quite honestly, that was the least of my happiness. No, it's picks of the week. Dax, you've known me for a long time. We played against each other. I may or may not have a degenerate part of me that just loves to just look at things, pick it, and then stick it. You follow?
Yep,
so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 3 games every week. It's usually going to be MLS or Club World Cup. We get 1 point for the correct result. You get 1 point if you do the correct scoreline, and you get a bonus point for guessing a goal scored. Now, there's a forfeit on the line for the loser. On the last episode of the show, the person with the lowest points will wear a jersey of the other's choice. I'm going to make this real easy for you. If Dax loses, he's going to wear the smallest Taylor Twellman jersey ever assembled. I will send him my 7-year-old daughter's jersey. Actually, it was mine that I wore, Dax. You could have had a joke in there. And if I lose, I will wear one of the 14 teams that Dax McCarty played for in Major League Soccer. He can send it to me, and we'll go from there. Are you okay with that bet?
I love it.
Yeah, it's more fun than, wear a Shaquille O'Neal jersey. Who cares? That's stupid. No. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Al Ahly, Inter Miami. They kick off the Club World Cup June 14th, 8 o'clock Eastern time at Hard Rock Stadium in Florida. I will say the final score will be 3-2. It will be in favor of Inter Miami. And yes, Messi scores.
That's a spicy one. Considering I don't know a ton about Al Ahly, and
that's why I did it first.
And Inter Miami is in great form right now. I was leaning towards that scoreline, but there's 0 chance I'm picking the same score as you. I am actually going to go draw 2-2.
Smart.
Because quite honestly, I don't know enough about Al Ahly, but I do know a lot about Inter Miami, and they're too inconsistent for me right now. I do think Messi scores, and I'm going to go with Luis Suarez as well. So Messi scores, Suarez scores.
Ooh, look at you giving 2 bonus scores because you can't follow rules. That's great. Awesome.
Exactly. But they get a 2-2 draw. Not a great start to the Club World Cup for Inter Miami.
June 15th, 3 o'clock Eastern at the Rose Bowl. You've got the European champions, Paris Saint-Germain, versus Atletico Madrid. I'm going to give you an absolute barn burner, 0-0.
No chance of that happening. I'm going Champions League winners, PSG, 2-1. Vitinha, game winner.
Oh, how good was he in the Champions League final? One of the best players I've ever seen. The reason why I'm giving 0-0 for you listeners in the UK, that will be 12 o'clock Pacific time. The bodies will be very, very sluggish. It will be warm. I just don't see it happening. Now, 6 o'clock Eastern on the same day at PayPal Park in Northern California, the United States men's national team will play Trinidad and Tobago in the Gold Cup. Now, for me, it's a must-win game. It's an easy win, and yet I'm saying that this is the team they lost to fail to qualify for the World Cup in 2017.
I was there.
I can't believe you were there. I'm going to say this is an absolute blowout because I think there's going to be a lot of anxiety and a lot of real angst for the U.S. men. I think they win that game going away. I think it's 4-0.
Okay. I do think it's going to be a big win for the U.S. men's national team. But I think that there's a mistake in there at the back somewhere, and I think Trinidad sneaks a goal in. So I'm going 4-1. 4-1 U.S. men's national team.
I have a feeling you get 6 points this week, and I get 0.0. Yeah.
That's what I would love. I would love that.
You got a bonus one for me, don't you?
Yes, of course. What you do pretty much every day when you're not recording podcasts or working with Apple TV. U.S. Open golf champion.
Oh, God,
I'm going first. I'm going before you, all right? Because I'm taking Scotty Scheffler because he's the only one that I know that is absolutely balling right now. He's the best golfer in the world, so I'm taking him.
Dude, it's the hardest course they play the U.S. Open circuit on. I've had the real pleasure of playing that course about 7-8 times. I played it after the redo from Gil Hanse in 2023. And all I'm going to say is this, Dax, the rough is 5 inches long. 5 inches long. So who drives it straight, who drives it far, and who hits the greens? Well, Scotty Scheffler. Now, in saying that, I will give someone that people aren't really talking enough about, but he's on the fringes. 2 players. Colin Morikawa, second most accurate player on the PGA Tour off the tee.
Okay.
And Sepp Straka is just behind him on that, but he's also about 15 yards further. I would keep an eye on those two, but I think this is Scotty Scheffler's to lose. Now, just food for thought, in 2016, the last time the U.S. Open was at Oakmont, Scotty Scheffler did not make the cut.
Oh, wow. Hey, by the way, next time you play at Oakmont, make sure my invite doesn't get lost in the mail, okay?
Yeah, I don't have your number. See ya.
This episode is brought to you by Altra Running. When you're out for a run, it should be about hitting your goals, clearing your head, or just getting out in the fresh air. The last thing you want are uncomfortable shoes that rub or slow you down. Altra makes performance running shoes with room for your toes so you feel so comfortable and strong, even on your toughest runs. Altra running shoes are made to keep your feet in a more natural position so you can move the way you were designed to. No more squeezing into a pair of shoes that aren't even shaped like feet. No more breaking in a new pair of running shoes, and no more counting down the minutes until you can take your shoes off. With Altra, you won't even notice they're on. With shoes for the road, trail, gym, and hiking, plus a variety of styles and colors to match any outfit, any run, and any occasion, it is easy to find your perfect pair because you shouldn't have to compromise style for comfort. Try Altra with a free 30-day trial and free shipping at altrarunning.com. That's ALTRA running.com.
The FIFA Club World Cup begins this week. Now, there's not a single soul knows what to expect in this tournament. And if anyone says they do, they have no idea what they're talking about because this is going to be the first rendition where there's a lot of teams. But the prize money has got my intrigue, Dax.
Yep.
Listen to this. It's $1 billion total prize money, with it being distributed as follows. You get $2 million per win in the group stage, $1 million for a draw, $7.5 million round of 16, $13 million quarterfinal, $21 million semifinal, $30 million to make the final, $40 million to win. Now, this tournament will kick off Saturday with Inter Miami taking on Al Ahly at Hard Rock Stadium. Now, the conversation, however, has been this, and I think you and I have been asked this 6 different ways to Sunday, is what's the appetite going to be like with FIFA announcing lower ticker prices because what are there, tens of thousands of tickets still available?
TT, I think that the group stage is going to be a slog.
I do too.
Genuinely, I think the group stage is going to be tough to watch. Okay. And there are a couple games sprinkled in here and there where I'm going to be locked in. I'm going to be locked in on all the MLS games, 100%. I'm absolutely fascinated about how it's going to go for our MLS teams. But I think the group stage is going to be tough. I think that the crowds are going to be sparse in certain games. And I think there's going to be some criticism. But Taylor, because of the money involved in this tournament, I think once you get to the knockout stages,
Agreed.
You're going to see some really, really high-level soccer and some really good football.
I think, to your point, yes, money speaks more than anything, particularly in the global game. So the likes of Atletico Madrid, PSG, it could be Chelsea, they're also going to have the deepest squads. And so part of me thinks this is going to be, listen, for some of these clubs, MLS in particular, this is a showcase to show who you are with respect to the world game. I think the moment the group stage ends, the tournament ultimately begins.
Yeah.
Except for Major League Soccer. Because that's where I think for MLS, and when you look at it, let's look at all 3 teams. Group A, Inter Miami, Porto, Palmeiras, Al Ahly. I don't know. The question's going to be realistic goals for Inter Miami at this tournament. I think if you asked me that on February 1st, 2025, I'd say 100% getting out of the group. And if not, winning one knockout stage game. However, we're talking about Inter Miami that can't stop a nosebleed, and they're leaking goals to the likes of the worst team in the league in Montreal. Dax, I don't know this answer. I think the realistic goal is to get out of the group. But I don't know if that's realistic in the moment right now with the vibes being kind of down in South Florida.
Well, the only thing I can say to that is that Lionel Messi has kind of woken up in the last 2 weeks. And it's funny because I got a ton of crap for not having him in my All-Star starting 11. And I said, look, Lionel Messi he should be at the All-Star game. He should be voted into the All-Star game. He's the best player in the league. It took him 2 games against Columbus and against Montreal to go from middle of the pack in goal contributions to leading the league in goal contributions. He's the only player in the league that can give you 8-9 goal contributions in 2 games because he's that good still. And so if Messi continues to carry Inter Miami, I can see them getting out of the group. I argued, TT, that realistic expectations for Inter Miami and for LAFC are to go into that third game, go into that last group stage game with a realistic chance to advance, okay? Seattle, you're in another category, all right? And I want to move on to the Seattle Sounders for a second because they are in a group with Atletico Madrid, Botafogo, and PSG. You're talking about the reigning Champions League winners, talking about the reigning Copa Libertadores winners, and you're talking about Simeone, who is going to have the Atletico Madrid players running through walls. Doesn't matter what the competition is. It could be a kick around in Fiji, and he would have them ready to go.
If Seattle gets a point, is it a success?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. And that's not downplaying it. But if the Seattle Sounders tie any one of those 3 teams...
100%. They shouldn't be expected to win any of the games, okay? And
Agreed.
If they get a draw, and if they give themselves a chance, quote unquote, if they get a point in the first 2 games, okay, you're going to lose to PSG in the last group game. But hey, you gave yourself a chance at the end. There was a small smidgen of hope. But yeah, I think all of these teams have to go into this thinking, let's get to the third group stage game to give ourselves a chance. And then TT, look, anything can happen, especially with LAFC, especially with Inter Miami. I would I would hope that LAFC and Inter Miami look at their groups and say, we need to get out of the group, okay? Because if they don't, is it a failure? I'm not going to say that. It's not a failure because ultimately these teams are still very good teams in different parts of the world that we just don't know about.
I agree with you. I thought the LAFC Club America game was one of the best moments I think this hemisphere has had in a long time. It was the playing game because Club Lyon was deemed to not be eligible to play in the tournament because of multi-club ownership and all of those rules that are now part of the discussion right now with Crystal Palace. But the point being, LAFC versus America was brilliant. It was a great showcase for the game in North America, and it was awesome. I would say this because LAFC now is in Group D with Chelsea, Tunis, and Flamingo. I think LAFC is the most balanced of the MLS teams. I think they have the best shot of all three teams to go the furthest. Now, the issue is they don't have a home game.
Right.
Because they ended up coming into the tournament, getting into it late. So they're going to be in Orlando, Atlanta, and Nashville. However, you look at that team, they haven't been great in the MLS regular season. That's a fact. That's not even that hot of a take. They were the best team by far against America. They have experience on the roster. They have balance. They can defend. But more importantly, their best player is who? Denis Bouanga. And where is he great? On the counter. LAFC is going to be defending against Chelsea. They're going to be defending against Flamingo. Yep. So reality is, Dax, their best player, their one-trick pony, so to speak, it almost plays into the hands of how the game's going to unfold. So it actually wouldn't surprise me if it's Chelsea and LAFC getting out of Group D. And I know that said to the UK listener, you're like, wait, you're putting them in the same category. I don't think you're fully understanding what I'm saying. They will be a counter-attacking team, and that is when LAFC is at their best. Now, Olivier Giroud has 100% been a disappointment. Yep. I think over the past 72 hours, for lack of a better way to put it, last 10 days, I think LAFC with the new transfer window, I think they explored Ronaldo. I think they explored a couple other players. I don't think, and I know this sounds idiotic, I don't think Ronaldo would have helped him.
That doesn't sound idiotic at all.
I just don't think it would have helped. However, it would have brought star power that you and I would have been asked a million different things and done a million different podcasts. And it would have brought eyeballs to LAFC. But I don't think Ronaldo would have helped LAFC in this moment.
I agree 100%. And the fact that they even explored it, I think that shows ambition from LAFC's perspective. They are trying to freshen up their roster and try to find different ways to be creative and add good players to the team. I don't think Ronaldo fits into what LAFC does best, which is exactly what you said. But I will be tuning into every game.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's going to be a fun tournament once you get to the knockout stages. I think you're going to see some difficult crowds and some difficult environments. I mean, TT, we're playing games during the week at 12 p.m. and at 3 p.m.
At 95-degree weather.
One of my buddies in Orlando was like, hey, man, can you get me tickets to Man City Juve on a Thursday at 3 p.m.? I'm like, dude, you're going to melt and you're going to die. And those players, the pace of the game is going to be a snail's pace. But
it's also going to be a great idea of what the World Cup's going to be here in about a year. It's crazy to think we're halfway through the MLS regular season. Also, up here in Boston, the Northeast, Dax, I don't know about you, but school's almost out for my kids. So I figured, why don't we do a little bit of grading? First off, would you ever be a teacher? No chance.
No. Salute to the teachers, man.
Exactly. No. Right. So this is the only time I'm ever going to really give out grades because Lord knows I would be in trouble if I was a teacher. So I came up with a list. You and I are going to go back and forth. We're going to grade it. And, naturally, the listeners are probably going to let us know how stupid we are. So you ready to do this?
Let's do it, man.
Here we go. Greg Vanney.
Oh, of course we start with Greg Vanney in the LA Galaxy. I'm giving Greg Vanney a D. And the reason I'm giving Greg Vanney a D and not an F, because the LA Galaxy have been atrocious this season, historically bad. I'm giving him the built-in excuse of injuries, of Ricky Puig not being available, of Joseph Paintsil missing the first 8 weeks of the season. I think Greg Vanney is a wonderful coach. He's a two-time MLS Cup champion with two different clubs in this league. That's very rare. I think he will get LA Galaxy out of this eventually, but I think the season is lost. He gets a D. All right, TT, we're moving on. You're up. The one, the only, Lionel Messi.
For me, it's an A minus. The fact that Inter Miami are even in the position that they're in is because Messi's on the field. That's the grade I give for Messi as the player. The Messi, the GM, because anyone that wants to convince me that Messi isn't the GM of this team, I'm going to tell you it's a C minus, because the way they have built this team and the way that team is built around him, they lack any kind of real range and legs in the midfield. Athleticism is a struggle. Campana's gone, so there's zero backup to Luis Suarez, who's playing on one leg. The player, A minus, B plus. The GM, for me, C minus. New England Revolution head coach, Caleb Porter.
Caleb Porter gets an A because when the season started, I was ready to have him on the hot seat. I did have him on the hot seat because New England was atrocious. And this is where I wish more coaches would follow in the footsteps of a Caleb Porter and not be so stubborn. He made a tactical adjustment because his wingers were not producing. His wingers were not good enough, quite frankly. And so he said, you know what? I'm going to throw this out the window. I am going to make sure I accentuate the strengths of my best players. I'm going to double down on my backline being very good. I'm going to double down on the fact that I need to protect my backline with two good midfielders, and I'm going to change formations. And since that formation change, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe they've lost a game. TT, I don't consider them to have an A-plus roster in terms of talent when you compare it to the rest of the league.
You're going to get a disagreement with me on that one.
I don't think they do, but Caleb Porter has been tremendous. I love the tactical adjustment. The team's playing really well right now. He gets an A.
He gets an incomplete from me because until the end of the season, if they're not in the playoffs, because he himself has said they will make the playoffs, then absolutely. They only had one goal in their first 4 games. I called out Caleb Porter and the Revolution and said, listen, what do you do? He went to 3 in the back. They did well. They've got 2 games in hand in the Eastern Conference. That's important, but that Eastern Conference is going to be difficult. I do think they make the playoffs. I'm okay with you giving him an A.
All right, TT. This is an easy one. San Diego FC, what are we giving them?
It's an A+, because the reason why I say that is anyone that has followed this league knows that the expansion teams often get a clean slate, but a lot of them have failed in establishing, 1, an identity, and 2, style of play. San Diego did both without breaking the bank. Now, Atlanta United, they broke the bank. LAFC, they broke the bank. So naturally, they were successful. Cincinnati did not. St. Louis did not. And since St. Louis is the outlier to any of this, they spent the least amount of money of any expansion team, and somehow they won the West in that year. But you look at Cincinnati, you look at Minnesota, Toronto all the way back in the day. A lot of these expansion teams, it takes you 2 or 3, 4 years to establish an identity. They have come in. They've been ball dominant. They've survived a little bit of a lull. Their designated player, their biggest signing, Chucky Lozano, got injured. And yet we're talking about a team that is in second place in the West. They're 5 points out of actually being first place. And the fact that they've only lost 1 of 10 games at home, they're dominating games at home. I don't care what anyone tells me. On June 10th, San Diego gets an A+.
No notes from me. Completely agree.
Wilfried Zaha for Charlotte FC. You and I are going to have fun with this one.
I feel like I'm getting all the difficult ones, all right? And you're getting all the easy ones.
I think Wilfried... listen,
Wilfried Zaha...
No. I'll interrupt you. It's a D+, dude. It's a D+. It has a lot to do with understanding timing and understand. They lose at home to New England. And he goes on Snapchat with a ridiculous post that made no sense of the timing. Keep in mind, Charlotte at that point was second in the East.
Yep.
They were the hot topic. Now,
vibes were great.
They were great. Vibes were fantastic, particularly in the stadium, sports talk radio. I got a little bit of a good discussion on their radio, which I love because they'll give it right back to you. I said at the time when they were second, I think they're a little fraudulent. I don't love the way they go about their business in the attack. I love how Dean Smith built that team back to front because they needed that after the first couple of seasons. Zaha, for me, just feels like it's yet to get going. It's a D+ for me.
TT, Atlanta United, give me your grade.
It's the easiest one of the day. It's an F. It's an F. You can't spend $52 million in 2 transfer windows and be questioning whether or not you're going to make the playoffs. Now, the question should have been, can they get a top 4 seed? They've got to weed out some of the bad signings and contracts that they had, but Moranchuk, Latte Lot, and now Miguel Almiron, all 3 have been underperforming, underwhelming. Ronnie Dyla, as underwhelming as it can be. I am shocked that I have to give them an F, because if you asked me before the season, I would have said they're going to give everyone a run for their money for the Supporter Shield, for the Eastern Conference, and Atlanta United was going to return. I was in that building 3 weeks ago. It was dead silent. They've got a real problem in Atlanta. It is 100% an F in my estimation. Dax, you're pretty, I would say, active on social media. You read a lot of stuff, and I think this is going to be the best part of the 7 weeks we hang out together, is kind of react to some of the stuff that's going on social media, which is remarkable, by the way, because it literally has turned the news cycle into basically 8 hours. But over the past week, I thought it was interesting. Frank Ribéry tweeted this in response to Ronaldo saying that those who stand out and win the Champions League should win the Ballon d'Or. He tweeted, brilliant way, so you capitalize need to win the Champions League to win the Ballon d'Or with laughing emojis. Now, Ribéry was snubbed in 2013 after winning the treble with Bayern. Cristiano actually won it. And just for you, in the last 15 years, 8 of the players who have won Champions League have gone on to win the Ballon d'Or. Now, part of the reason why the 7 years that didn't is Messi and Ronaldo were playing. It doesn't. So here's my question. Do you have to win the Champions League to win the Ballon d'Or?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
It's absurd.
What are we talking about
Completely
right now?
absurd. You mean to tell me that if Inter Milan won the Champions League, that they would have had a player who stood out to win the Ballon d'Or? Lautaro Martinez, Marcus Thuram, Bastoni? No, absolutely not. I completely disagree with that. I thought it's great banter from Frank Ribéry, by the way. Fantastic usage of social media. But also, if Erling Haaland scores 100 goals in a calendar year and breaks every record there is, and yet Man City falls short in the Champions League, he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or? Get out of here with that. Absolutely not.
My initial response is this, and it's real easy. Messi and Ronaldo. They proved that theory. They didn't
100%.
win the Champions League every year, but you wanted to tell me that they had to win Champions League in order to win it. By the way, Cristiano, you won it in 2013.
Exactly.
And I'd argue Ribéry probably had the best argument to you not winning it, and yet you still won. So no, absolutely 100%. That's it for this week's show. We'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode of It's Called Soccer Summer Takeover. Please remember, subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.